As we look at Daniel chapter 11, we must remember that Daniel chapters 10, 11 and 12 are one continuous vision. We will therefore pick up from the end of Daniel chapter 10 and move right into Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 10 verse 20 reads, "Then he said," that is Gabriel, "Do you know why I have come to you? And now I must return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I have gone forth, indeed the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you what is noted in the scripture of truth. No one upholds me against these, as in the spiritual conflicts, except Michael your prince." Daniel chapter 11. "Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood up to confirm and strengthen him." We are once again reminded of the heavenly warfare going on in the spiritual realm and how Gabriel stood with Darius the Mede to confirm and strengthen him. We think of the decree of Cyrus the Persian and Darius the Mede in the restoration of Judah to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Verse 2, "And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece." The truth has to do with the scripture of truth spoken of in Daniel chapter 10 verse 21. It is the truth concerning the world kingdoms. 3 more kings will arise out of Persia after King Cyrus. The 4th king is commonly identified with the Ahasuerus of Esther, who was fabulously rich, wealthy and self-confident. History tells us how he amassed an army of 1 million men and a navy of 1,200 ships, declaring war on Greece, and suffered a humiliating defeat. There were certainly more than 4 Persian kings, but they had no concern with the people of God. However, those 4 did, either in hindering or in helping the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. Verse 3 jumps right over to a mighty king that arose with great dominion. History confirms that this king is Alexander the Great from the Grecian Empire. It reads, "That a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided towards the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these." To really appreciate these prophetic words, we must see the progressive revelation given to Daniel concerning the Grecian Empire. In Daniel chapter 7, the kingdom of Greece was seen in the vision of the leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings of a bird. Take note of the number 4. Then, in Daniel chapter 8, we saw how the goat with a large horn, Greece, would overpower and trample the ram, Persia. The goat grew very great, and when he became strong, the large horn was broken, and in its place 4 notable horns came up. Thus, when we put Daniel chapters 7, 8, and 11 right next to each other, history confirms how Alexander the Great died at the height of his power, and his kingdom was broken up and divided towards the 4 winds of heaven, but not according to his posterity. The Grecian Empire would never be the same, for it was uprooted and divided among Alexander's 4 leading generals, but not his descendants. And so we see how the 4 generals correspond to the 4 heads on the leopard kingdom in chapter 7, the 4 horns that came out of the large horn of the goat in chapter 8, and the kingdom broken and divided towards the 4 winds of heaven in chapter 11. We now move to the conflicts between the king of the south and the king of the north, found from verse 5 right through to the rest of the chapter. Who are they? As already noted, after Alexander's death, his kingdom was divided among his 4 generals, namely Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Ptolemy took Egypt, Libya, Arabia, and Palestine and the southern part. Seleucus took Syria and the eastern part. Lysimachus took Thrace, parts of Asia and the northern part, and Cassander took Macedonia and the western part. It was out of this division that began two dynasties, namely the king of the south and the king of the north. The king of the south is undoubtedly the king of Egypt, which was obtained by Ptolemy and was ruled under a succession of kings known as the Ptolemies. The king of the north is the king of Syria, which was obtained by Seleucus and ruled under a succession of kings known as the Seleucidae. History shows us that Seleucus had won most of the territory belonging to the other two divisions of the Grecian Empire, that of Lysimachus and Cassander. The nation of Israel was caught right in the middle of the conflicts between Egypt and Syria, and was at time in the possession of the kings of Egypt, the king of the south, and sometimes of the kings of Syria, the king of the north. The reason that Daniel sees these as north and south was because Palestine was the central point of God's dealings on the earth, Syria being the north and Egypt being the south. Palestine became the battleground between these ongoing conflicts that arose out of the Grecian Empire. These titles, the King of the South and the King of the North, are therefore representative titles of a succession of kings and their empires. They are the Ptolemaic Empire and the Seleucid Empire, respectively. In the next video, we will look at why Daniel was given much information about the conflicts between the King of the South and the King of the North.